Josh Goodman, welcome to the Love of Light podcast. How are you, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. Nice to see you here.
Yeah, man, I know it's been a while. The last time I believe we saw each other was Cincinnati, which was pretty cool. It was a great tournament. But obviously, what most people don't realize, whoever's going to be listed this later, we've known each other since we were 8, 9 years old. Just kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, we had some great battles on the court. I mean, there's nothing better than Florida junior tennis, and but I love to see you transitioning here to the podcast space.
Thank you, man. Obviously, it's very new, but I'm enjoying it. And I believe this platform is going to give a lot of opportunity to not only people who are experienced in tennis like you, but young athletes and people who are trying to have success on and off the court. So, once again, thank you for joining. So, I got some questions for you that I'd like to have you answer, and you just flow with it,
Sure.
whatever you choose. So, with the first question, what's the one tennis moment that made you fall in love with the game?
It's hard. It's hard to pick one exactly. But just competing. I mean, when you're a kid and you have the opportunity to uh, to give it your all and get a huge win, I mean that sticks with you forever. And so I think those lessons really help prepare me for what I do now as a lawyer. Through going through college, all of those things really started on the tennis court, training, and then competing with great athletes like yourself and other guys.
No, that's good, man. I mean, that's a lesson I think juniors, parents should learn is especially the art of competing. We can always get caught up in the results and what we're getting from each tournament in terms of wins and losses, but it's obviously enjoying the journey and then understanding what comes along with it. Obviously, you know this just like I do growing up in Florida, just battling not only juniors, but you're, battling other parents and other environments. And some things are new, some things you just get used to. So, yeah, definitely great answer. Who was your tennis idol growing up, and what life lessons did you learn from them?
Growing up, I would say it had to be Andy Roddick. Um, just
Nice.
just an American, cool guy. That massive serve, big forehand. Then when he won the U.S. Open against Ferrero at a young age, I mean, I feel like he was almost everyone's idol at that time. I've been using a Babolat Pure Drive since I was a kid, and I still use it to this day. So, shout out to him. Got to number one in the world. I wish he could have beat Federer in that Wimbledon final way back when, but an unbelievable career, and he's in the podcast space now. So you're joining him.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that. So that was my idol growing up too. Obviously, you know this. He was actually a Boca prep with Marty Fish training, and we all knew that. And when I found that out, because my dad discovered this, he was actually a basketball coach, and he ran into them in the gym. And not many people know this, but they actually play basketball too. They're two sport athletes,
Right.
and so my dad ended up getting me an autograph from Andy Roddick when I was around 7 years old, around 2002. And then ever since, it's just been following. But yeah, I love his passion, love his energy. And he was definitely the type of guy where I felt like he could have won, obviously, 4 or 5 majors, but he had the Federer insanity that most people couldn't get out of. You
Right.
can only name two people, on the face of the planet that were able to overcome him. That was Djokovic and Nadal. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and he was someone who really gave it all when he was out there. I think that's part of why, he retired a little early is because he went all out every day. I mean, he was somewhat limited with the backhand, right? But just to get where he could at number one in the world and to have the success he had with Rafa, Joker, Fed, obviously, Murray. I mean, he went through the gauntlet. So, and being an American in a Florida guy, he spent so much time down here. I remember at one of the USTA events, his mom gave a speech discussing the upbringing with Marty and how they were They played both multiple sports, and then the success that they both had. I mean, really was inspirational.
Yeah, and again, the inspiration from tennis. I tell people, obviously, you can compete, win tournaments, but then you got to learn those life lessons off the court. Okay, with this final question, what's one reason you're still grateful for tennis today?
I mean, I think it has to go back to the life lessons learned and the discipline it instills. As you know, I mean, there's no way around it. To get to a high level of tennis, play college, play high level juniors, and then obviously, if someone wants to take the next step to be a pro, it takes hitting thousands and thousands and thousands of balls. There's no way around it. I mean, you could be the most talented person in the world, but you have to spend hours a day just working on your craft, and that creates discipline. I mean, it creates a mindset, and I think it helped me go through law school. It helps me as a lawyer today. I mean, and then I've made amazing relationships with all types of people, from networking to true friendships and everything in between, all because of tennis.
Yes, I love how you mentioned relationships because tennis, as you know, it can be toxic. It's an individual sport. And when you're navigating the tennis scene, especially early on, I didn't understand all the pressures that would come with just becoming a junior tennis player and competing. And I wasn't necessarily thinking about the relationships at an early age. And not that I needed to or you needed to, because we were at a stage where maybe we were just immature and we just want to prove to the tennis world in our local community or local tournaments, wherever we are, that we are a good player and that we can compete. But looking back at it, I definitely say, if I was a young player playing now, I would focus on obviously competing, but understanding what relationships I can get out of it as well, and not just get so fixated on results. That's good. Relationships is big. And for anyone who's listening to this, I encourage that. Obviously, tennis is an individual sport, but it is what you make it to. It doesn't have to be so frustrating to where you're isolating yourself.
That's such a good point. Because I didn't think of that when I was going through it, the 10s, 12s, 14s. I was thinking about winning the matches, and that was the main thing. I mean, yes, you talk to people and there'd be dinners and stuff like that, but it's unbelievable how 20 years later, look, we're talking here and we're buddies, and there's many other examples like that. And who would have thought that? When you're 10, 15 years old. So it really is something that can stick with you.
Fully agreed. All right, man. Now, time for the best stuff. So, I want to get into your tennis story. I know everyone has one,
Okay.
and each and every one of us has a unique journey. Mine was pretty unique in itself, but I'd love to hear how you grew up in the sport of tennis, what drew you to it, and what made you want to become a tennis player at an early age.
Sure. Yeah. My dad is really who got me into the sport. He was someone who played juniors. Then he coached under Harry Hopman, who's a legendary coach in the game. Um, and after that, he coached a Davis Cup for Portugal. He was the head Davis Cup captain of Portugal back in the '70s, and he played some satellite tournaments back in those days, and really got me into it. Had a big role in me playing, competing. He went to my tournament, so he had a big role in me first getting involved. And to this day, it's something that brings us together as well.
That's awesome, man. I also had a father son coaching relationship, and it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I tell people, especially when you're coaching, or whether you're a parent coaching, if you're a son of someone who had a father or mother that was coaching them, not the easiest thing in the world. I say, I know my dad and I had a great run, and he coached me from the time I was 7, 8 years old. But I definitely attribute a lot of my success towards him because he was the one that understood me, not just as an athlete, but as a person. And even though he wasn't the guy that came up in tennis, he understood what it meant to be an athlete. He's a Division One football player, and he also knew how to train other athletes in other sports. So I believe I had that advantage coming in competing, despite the fact that he wasn't the tennis guy.
And did he coach you all the way through?
Yeah, for the most part, up until like 16, 17. And then I went to an academy, Hamir Mirzad. I don't know if you note his name. He had a brother, Vahid, and he played at FSU. Hamid played at Florida. So he was one of the only 5-time All Americans there. And so sophomore year, junior, senior year, I was coached by him a little bit more, but still coached by my dad when I went to tournaments.
Right. And I think like you said, it there can be a challenge having a parent coaching you a lot because sometimes, you want just the dad and then but the other
Yeah.
times you need the coach and so similarly I grew up training at an academy for the most part at Saviano's, Nick Saviano, who I'm sure you're familiar with, coached a lot of
Oh
great
yeah.
players and had a big role as well.
So in terms of Nick Saviano, because I didn't know that, how was his training? What was his philosophy like when you were working with him?
Sure, yeah. I mean, he is a brilliant guy, played at Stanford. Um, so it's not the most common thing when you have someone who is educated at one of the top universities in the world and is also a former top pro player himself. So I think I really appreciated that what he was able to bring because of his knowledge about life, and of course his knowledge about tennis. I think one of the things that stuck with me in his coaching was just the importance of balance when you're running, keeping that balance with your upper body. You look at a guy like Novak. I mean, the guy can be on the dead run, and you see no movements that where he loses his balance. I mean, it doesn't matter where you hit it. Basically, you could make it. He could be running to a backhand near the alley, and you see the body control that he has, and that's something that's always stuck with me. It's so important in our sport, and yeah, it had a big role.
I'm glad that you mentioned that movement part, Josh, because I'm working now at a full-time academy called LTP. We're based in Charleston, and a lot of the drills and movements that we do before we hit any tennis balls is footwork. So we'll practice 5, 10 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes of footwork before they even strike a ball. And obviously, some juniors at a certain age, they don't understand this, but if I had to do it all over again, I would definitely restructure how I would practice in terms of my movement. I felt like I was a pretty good athlete, but there were certain aspects of my movement where I could have been a little bit more polished. And with my coach, with dad, we were raw learning and trying to learn from other coaches and other people in the tennis world. So we didn't know everything when it came to the specific details of proper footwork. I understood how to move fast and have a quick first step. I think that's very important. I do think that juniors should always develop that. At the same time, like you said, just learning how to be an effective mover, especially on the run. And it's not talked about enough because a lot of juniors, they love the aesthetics, as you see, where it's the shot making or the highlight shot that they see on TV. But very rarely they pay attention to the footwork and movement.
So true. If you think about it, I mean, one of the most important things that any player can do is having the right distance from the ball. And it sounds so easy when you say it like that, having distance. But when it's coming in quick, you don't know where the other opponent is going to hit the ball. I mean, taking those extra little steps and making sure that you're not too close, you're not too far, is so important for hitting it in the sweet spot and putting your opponent on defense and being able to turn defense into offense. And like you said, I remember playing you, and it was tough to get a ball by you. I mean, you really made the opponent work for every shot. But it's something that we all can improve. I mean, I'm sure even you could ask Alcaraz and Sinner, and they would say they want to be better movers every day, and they're two of the best players we've ever seen, right?
Yeah, it is. And I remember I told this story about you and I in a later episode of my podcast. You'll probably laugh at it, but I definitely want to transition to the stress of junior tennis and how you handled it. And I want you obviously to ponder on this story, and then I want you to just flow with it. So I told
Oh.
the audience the first match we ever played. I don't think you remember it. We played Little Mo, and I believe you may have been one of the top seeds, one of the top players. I'm obviously at a stage where I'm trying to make my name known locally. And for anyone who knows junior tennis in the state of Florida, especially Little Mo, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
And so when you're playing that tournament, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot at stake. You're trying to advance to regionals and hopefully nationals. I was 9 at the time, and I had the ability to compete and rally, but I didn't have the structure of what it actually took to win a match. And for juniors who are listening to this, if you're in that place, don't worry because it gets better. You just have to go through the trial and error of winning and losing, maybe even losing to better kids. And this was a scenario with me and Josh. Go back to the story. So I start this match, and obviously I'm tight, and I'm down 3-0, probably less than maybe 5-10 minutes. And it's crazy to think about because I knew I had the ability to at least play, but because I was so tight, nervous, I'm like, it wasn't going to happen for me. And my dad thought, hey, I was ready. And maybe I was ready physically, but not mentally. And so I ended up losing. I remember that match. I mean, 0-0. It was probably one of the most embarrassing matches, not because I lost. And I wasn't even supposed to win that match on paper, but it was really more about I just failed to prepare mentally and understand how to live in the moment. And that's probably a lot to ask, obviously, for someone who's 9. But I'd like for you to chime in on that and some of the pressures that you felt like you dealt with as a junior over and over again.
sure. I mean, that's one of the toughest parts about tennis. There's no bench players that can come in and sub in. You missed a few free throws in a row, or three pointers, and you're feeling nervous, and you can always go to the bench. I mean, if you're a receiver and you're winded and you're not feeling so great, someone can sub in for you. In tennis, that doesn't exist. It's just you. So if you're playing singles, especially. So if you come into a match where you're so nervous that you can't even play, it can really be debilitating, and you can make it so that you don't have a chance. So I think what the great players do is they're able to find a way to fight through those moments where they're mentally feeling weak, feeling like they can't do it. They get through those moments, maybe they're not playing their best, but then throughout the course of the match, or throughout a season, certainly they find a way to play their best. And if you look at a guy like Alcaraz, I mean, I would argue that Sinner is more talented and that he has more ability, just shot making. But for whatever reason, Alcaraz seems to elevate his game in all the big moments. Every final, it seems, every semi, every final, it seems like that's when he plays his absolute best tennis. And I think part of that is because he is able to mentally just play. I mean, he doesn't worry about the result. He's not worried about winning, and that's such a key aspect of tennis, which is not as important in other sports. Of course, it is. You need to be confident and calm in other sports, but when it's 1v1 and you're out there for 3 hours at a time, you really need to focus on what you can do mentally to play your best.
I definitely like that example of Alcaraz because, as you see, when he plays, he's so relaxed. It doesn't seem he has a care in the world, even though he does care about winning. He doesn't let it get to him. And that's something that I think juniors should always learn, no matter what the cost. If I'm competing, and even if I'm playing my best friend or someone who's very close to me, I need to be able to have the mentality of never say die attitude. I'm not going to worry about what I can't control, right? So the ultimate form of control is just to lose control and just allow things to happen which is a hard concept for juniors or parents or anybody to understand when it comes to tennis because we feel as if we can control so many things.
Yeah, and going back, I don't remember that match, to be totally honest with you, and I know you got your revenge on me a few times. So, but just thinking back to that time frame, and it's a good example. I remember in the finals of the state closed tournament, in the tens, and I was in the final, was up a set, and pretty handily in the second. You know, fell apart in that second set, went up, it was a third set 10-point tiebreaker at that time, when went up 5-0 in that tiebreaker, and I still remember that 20 years later, and ended up losing that match, and just as you can imagine, so devastated, 10 years old, could have been the state champion at that time. But it was a learning experience, and it was something that I still remember, and still it can learn from, that you just have to try to stay calm and get through those tough moments.
But that's the key. You hit it on the nail to learning experience. And obviously, yes, I got you a few times. But for those who are listening, I'd say I only got Josh not just because, oh, I'm getting better at tennis. I mentally had to prepare myself to not only play you again, but others again as well. Because when you think about it, in the state of Florida, the state that we were competing in, we played some of the same players over and over and over again. And it's funny, you look at the tournaments and you know when you sign up and you look at the draw and you know who's in it, who's not. And you have this feeling where you know you don't want to play someone, but you know if you do play that specific person, you just have to be ready. So that's what tennis really taught me is that it's going to expose who I am if I don't learn to live in the moment. And even if I fail, it's okay. But I don't want to fail not wanting to live into the moment or being afraid of playing somebody. And I'm sure you've had that. We've all had that. But at the same time, we're always growing, we're always learning from it because we understand that at the end of the day, it is a game, but you have to learn to dominate some of the same people every time, which is something that I said to myself, it's a little bit weird because I was, like you said, it's not a team sport. You can't sub in for anybody. Your coach can come in and tell you things, but you do have the ability to control your own destiny on the other side of the court, and there's no time. And when you have no time, you can create a delay effect when you're playing someone, which you can't do in any other sport.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And you also want to think about what gives you the best chance to win. And because nothing's guaranteed. There's no guarantee that you're going to go out there and play your best and win the match. That's impossible. No one has that. But what you can do is think about what is going to put me in the best position to give me the best chance to win this match. And in doing that, you wanna go out there and play, carefree, in the sense that you're not so nervous that you can't even execute on what you're trying to do out there. So, if you, let's say, you know that you need to serve big, you need to, go for win points on your serve. I mean, you need to go up there ready to hit it as hard as you can. I mean, you can't get up there scared, you know, pull off on a second serve. That actually gives you less of a chance to win, even though you feel like that's easier or safer. It's actually not. What's safer is to go up there and hit it. And it
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So with that, you hit it on there again with pressure. And I want to transition into when did you want to become a collegiate athlete? And what was that process like for you in terms of just searching schools? I know it's different for everybody and they have their own journey, but what specifically led to you playing college tennis? And did you have any other goals beyond that?
Well, I always wanted to play college tennis. Being growing up in the United States, I always wanted to have the college experience. There was a time when I was a really highly ranked junior, maybe 14s and into early 16s. I thought there may be aspirations beyond that. Unfortunately, I had various injuries, to my shoulder. So right after, I won the 16s Gator Bowl up in Jacksonville when I was 15, and was really taking the next step in my career, I think, at that point. And I remember in the third round of clay courts that year having, pretty serious shoulder injuries that took me out for a bit. And so at that point, I knew I wanted to get back and have a solid college career. I wanted to use tennis to put me in the best position for college. So thankfully, tennis was able to uh, help me get into Emory University, which is, in the US News or any other ranking system, one of the top 25 universities in the country. I may have not gotten in if it wasn't for tennis ability. And we all, Emory also has a great Division III program that regularly beats D1 teams. I remember my senior year, we beat Georgetown up in Washington, D.C. We won the Division III national title. So my senior year as well. So we had a quality program, and it helped me it helped prepare me for a career as a lawyer now.
That's awesome, man. And I love that journey because I know a lot of people have the golden calf of just playing Division I tennis or going pro. I played my Division I tennis at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, UNCG, shout out Spartans. But I always tell people too, the journey to being a college athlete is hard. It's not easy. It's not something you can just take for granted. And it's definitely not an ideology or something that you should just, idolize or hold up in your head and make it your identity. You really have to work for it. And I think with kids, when they're trying to become a college athlete, they struggle with the fact that nothing's going to be given to them. They got to earn what they're getting, not just a scholarship, but competing in the lineup and learning how to be with teammates because obviously it's an individual sport, but now you're entering into a scene where you're with a coach, you're with teammates, and it's different dynamics. So with that, I want to ask you, how did you handle the stress of collegiate life on and off the court?
At first, not so well, to be honest with you. My freshman year, it's such a great point you make because you spend your whole career as a junior. Um, Everything's about you. It's all you're doing is thinking about how I can be the best, how I can get the furthest in my tournaments, how I can get the best practices for me individually. You probably have a coach that's working with you individually that's thinking about how to improve your game. We both had our dads who were heavily involved in our games. But then when you get to college, you realize it's about the program and you're just a small part of that program. And that program's going to keep going whether you're there or not. And so it's really humbling. And I remember my freshman year, I came in, I was so highly ranked in the 16s, thought I would be playing at a top D1 school, and I had this kind of attitude like I was too good for this program, which it was the worst thing you could have because at any college program, especially D1, the higher levels of D2 and D3, everyone's really good. I mean, there's no one who doesn't know how to play tennis. Everyone is playing really high level. They all have a backstory, and they're all there to do their best in college and to make a name for themselves. And even D3, you look at a guy like Eric Budarak, made top 20 ATP in doubles. I mean, and that was a Division III player. So that he's a perfect example. I mean, you have guys who are going in there and they're there to compete. And so if you don't have the right attitude or you think you're too good for the program, you're not going to last long. And yeah, I learned that, and but thankfully, was able to really settle in, start to work. Worked a lot that off season after my freshman year, and was a fixture in the lineup for the next 3 years. So it's so important because it's very different as a tennis player. In other sports, you're playing on a team your whole life. In tennis, you're not. So when you get to college, it's really eye opening.
That's a good point, man, and a great lesson for the young athletes who are listening to this because humility is key. And you can be on the top of the world in tennis, it doesn't matter what level you're at. But if you don't have any humility to not only listen, be coachable, but understand that people are coming after you time and time again, not just in the lineup of where you're playing in college, but outside of that. teams are preparing for, whether they won or lost against you. And no one really is an anomaly, especially after their freshman year. I remember my first year, really good year, went 6-4 in the conference and playing competitive individuals in the fall and spring. And then the next year, I have a little bit of sophomore slump in the fall. And I worked hard before that in the summer, but I also knew there's no guarantee that I'm just going to have success right away like I did my freshman year because people understand who I am. They're going to be coming after me. And I'm going to have to bring the lunch pail mentality of practice and learning how to compete in matches. And that's the beauty of tennis is that you're just relearning how to compete in ways where you may have felt like that you didn't have to. But that's also the great thing about the sport is that it lets you evolve and you don't have to be the same player that you were maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. You do have control over your own destiny.
Right, you can always improve, and to your point, I mean, it you can always go down also, right? If you
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Pretty fast too.
yeah, you can, so I had a similar situation after having a very good sophomore year. Then I studied abroad that junior year, and then wasn't took things for granted, and then struggled a little bit the junior year. So that was kind of my sophomore slump. It was a little bit delayed, but then senior year, I figured, this is my last year really playing high level tennis, because I knew that I wanted to pursue a career in the law, and had my best year. I mean, going 16-4 and 11 matches in a row in the middle there. So that was, when you really put your mind to it, you can really improve quickly, like you said.
Tagging on that idea of improving, what is the best advice you could give for young athletes, junior tennis players who want to pursue collegiate tennis?
I would say to play a lot of tournaments in the juniors. I mean, get yourself out there. Obviously you want to keep improving, so you have to practice a lot, and sometimes tournaments can be a little bit challenging in the sense that you're so worried about winning. So there is a balance there that you need to make sure that your level is ready to play tournaments and you're mentally ready to play tournaments. But if you feel that you are, I think you just got to play a lot of tournaments. I mean, I remember going all over the country basically every week. I was doing normal, traditional schooling through my sophomore year, and then by junior year, it was just so much that I ended up doing online, like a lot of players that did when we were in the juniors. So that was a big change for me. But I think it can help. It can be something that is useful to you. But I think the main thing is really getting out there and competing and learning how to compete.
Yes. The big misconception is, and you've known this for a while with junior tennis, collegiate tennis, but a lot of people just want to pick and choose how they do their journey. And when I say pick and choose, I'd say it's almost like a cherry pick mentality where in basketball where you don't get back on defense, you're cherry picking, you're just waiting for some special opportunity to come to you. And there might be some parents and juniors who are on that path where they're kind of just cherry picking and they're not understanding that they got to get back in the game over and over again and expose themselves to tournaments and learn how to compete. I myself didn't play maybe enough tournaments for my level. I definitely played a lot of good local tournaments and did well in them to some degree. That was one thing if I had to take back. My dad says this too. You should have played more tournaments and traveled more outside of Florida, even though we didn't necessarily need to because the competition in Florida was so good and
Right.
so fierce, as you know. I mean, you'd have even the local tournaments, Super Series, and you play kids from outside the country. I kid you not. I mean, I tell people this. This wasn't an example of where you have a USTA tournament now, local, where you're just playing a bunch of American kids. In Florida, you could be playing someone from Brazil or someone from Russia, and you just had to learn to compete and just go. And you see, obviously, parents fighting, people arguing over calls. It was at every tournament, but we got used to it so much that we expected it. Even if it was from certain players, we just knew that okay, we're gonna lock in, we gotta dominate. But yeah, competing, you hit it right in the money.
It
So
makes you
parents,
battle
juniors,
tested. I
it
mean,
does.
especially down here in Florida. I mean, you could be playing someone who, just is calling balls that are way in, calling them out. Then the ref comes and they're from another country and they don't speak English, and you have to deal with that. I mean, that's
Yeah,
at 15 years old, so that's challenging. I mean, but then when you but then when you get to college and you're dealing with the craziness of a college atmosphere, people screaming, close calls on the other side, you're like, I'm ready. I've done this already. I battled through the Florida juniors. This is nothing. So I think competing is just so important at a young age.
it is. So transitioning after college and off the court, what is your life like now? You've obviously gone through the rigor of junior tennis, collegiate tennis, which is already an accomplishment itself. I tell people, God dreams to go pro, but pro is not everything. So, with that being said, what is your life like look now off the court, and how has tennis helped that?
Yeah, well, I'm now a lawyer in South Florida here. So, went to law school at the University of Miami after my college tennis career. And, during that time, unfortunately, I wasn't playing as much tennis as I would have liked, just being, in the grind of the law school world. Um, but it definitely helped me. I mean, just I remember regularly doing 6 a.m. runs and then going to class in undergrad and then going back to the tennis courts and then having, weight training. And that was a day. Those are long days. And to me, there's nothing that can prepare you better for, let's say, being an attorney or I'm sure people in other difficult fields than that grind of college tennis and even juniors, because you're used to those 12, 14-hour days of just grinding and working really hard. So that really that helped me a lot, I think. And when I was in law school, and then today as an attorney, I'm a corporate litigator, so I'm dealing with high stress situations, regularly arguing motions in court at hearings, and that is similar to a tennis match in a lot of ways as well. I mean, both sides have drafted their motion. It's going before a judge. The judge makes a ruling, and there's a winner and there's a loser. And it takes a lot of preparation in preparing to present in front of a judge, and it's similar to the preparation before a big tennis match. So, in a lot of ways, tennis has prepared me for life as an attorney, and which is really cool to think about. And I'm grateful for the sport for that reason.
That's so cool to hear, man, because a lot of times, especially after sport, people can lose their identity and they don't understand the fact that they're just playing the sport the whole time and they can't get away from the fact that that was something that they put all their identity into and didn't know how to use their God-given gifts or talents to do something else. And I don't fault everyone for that because obviously you have some people who have come from hostile, toxic backgrounds and they were forced to be this great tennis player. We fortunately didn't have that. And there might be times, obviously, we felt the pressure from our fathers or from other coaches or from ourselves. And that was my biggest critic because I was a perfectionist and I wanted to win everything. And to some degree, that was good. But in others, I knew how to take this step back, even as a coach. Now I'm still in tennis, but I see just like you, there's a winner and a loser. And I have to learn how to handle the fact that if my player loses, I'm losing too, but I have to handle that and get better. So I think it's a great lesson for people off the court when they're transitioning to life. outside of tennis? What is your identity? What is your why? How are you living your life? And do you value that as more importance than just playing tennis? Because at the end of the day, yes, we're athletes, but we're human beings as well.
And do those experiences help you when you're on the court to this day?
They do. It's just like you said, you're in the courtroom, I'm on the court. And there'll be times too where I'm competing, either playing maybe a UTR tournament or I'm playing in with the kids in the academy. And obviously I have more experience in terms of competing and understanding what it needs in terms of just winning. And then I understand the part of losing. Losing is always tough. And so I tell the kids, the academy, it's not the end of the world because you're missing a shot or you're losing the match. Now it's easy from my seat because I've kind of done it. I've seen the rigors of junior tennis, collegiate tennis, just like you. But at the same time, what most of them don't understand is I feel it too. I feel the loss. I feel the pressure and pain of what they're going through on the court. But I also know there's only so much I can do, and they need to learn how to become their own coach and their biggest cheerleader. And when they can get to that point, that's when I know that they're not just going to win on the court, but off the court. And that, becoming a lawyer and you have to put in the hard yards. It doesn't matter what you do, nothing's going to be given to you.
Exactly.
Well, Josh, I want to thank you for joining the Love of Life podcast, man. This has been awesome. And this is a story that, for those of you who are listening to this, you can learn from, not just on the court, but off the court. And playing Division 3 tennis and going through the ups and downs of what it takes, experiencing the pressures of junior tennis coaches. And I myself, I'm still learning. I love this game. I know, Josh, you love it too. And for those who want to learn and listen, this is a good example of a guy who knows how, or should say, he figured out a way to put it on the line, on the court, and off the court. And you don't see it too much from a lot of people, especially in the tennis world, because it's a frustrating environment if you put all your identity and all your eggs in the basket of just becoming this great tennis player. So, once again, thank you so much, Josh, for joining. And people are going to really learn from your story and understand where you're coming from. And congrats to you in your career.
Thanks for having me. I'm really, really excited to see where this goes. This is an awesome thing for our sport, and you have so much knowledge, and I'm happy that you're sharing it, Gaston.
I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Love of Life podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. It would help the channel greatly. And if you're a Spotify listener, definitely give it a like and a follow. In the meantime, episodes will be dropping weekly, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. God bless. G-Man is out.